G'day, how you doing today? How's the weather in your neck of the woods? Opera House, ferries, Circular Quay. It's a bit of a classic, isn't it? Alright, today we're going this way. We're going to head up towards that skyline right into the heart of the city. Now, keep in mind where we're standing right now. It wasn't always here. This is all reclaimed land. Back in the day, the water came up much further than this, but tucked away under all this concrete, a pristine stream once flowed. It was one of the main reasons Sydney is even here today. The TankStream, so just up here, looks like the Sydney water crew are doing a bit of work. We'll have a squiz at some photos of that in a sec. Now, when the first fleet rocked up, they found this freshwater source flowing right out of the valley and into the cove. This is where the very first camp was set up. And that park on the right, that's where the first hospital in Australia was built. Not a bad spot for a recovery, eh? That photo of the bridge, that's exactly where Bridge Street is today. We'll chat more about that when we get there. These days, the TankStream looks more like this other photo with the bloke in it, just a triangle-shaped brick tunnel tucked away beneath the road. We're going to follow the TankStream all the way to where it starts above ground though. I'm not heading into the tunnels today as much as I'd love to. They only let a lucky few down there each year for a tour. Hint, hint, Sydney water. I'll give you some pointers on how you can see the stream for yourself later on, but for this walk, I might annoy you with a bit of history. We're also doing a proper tour of Sydney. I've found some cracking alleyways to show you, plus some dark history, a few environmental disasters, and even some great food spots along the way. So, all this space here, it was all water. The original shoreline was actually way back where those shops and restaurants are now. Just got to wait for this tram to pass. If you're ever trying to get around Sydney, these things are heaps handy. This one will take you all the way up George Street to Central Station. Circular Quay is a real traveller's hub. You can get pretty much anywhere in Sydney from here. You've got the trains, ferries, trams, the big cruise ships, and the bikes. Well, the bikes are everywhere, aren't they? I reckon they're the new rabbits, just breeding everywhere you look. Funny thing is, the original rabbits actually arrived right here on the first fleet back in 1788. They kept them in cages for food at first, but just like these bikes, it didn't take long for them to get out and start taking over the joint. Alright, we've made it to Herald Square. Now, this whole setup, the fountain and the landscaping, was a massive gift to the city back in 1981. It was donated by the folks at the Sydney Morning Herald to celebrate their 150th anniversary at the time. It was the biggest private gift the city had ever seen. Have a look at these bronze sculptures in the pools. They're by a legendary artist named Stephen Walker. He wanted to bring the spirit of the original TankStream back to life. You've got all the locals here, frogs, snakes, goannas, even a little echidna, and some crabs. These are the kinds of critters that would have been hanging out right here along the banks before we turned the place into a concrete jungle. It's also called the Children's Fountain, dedicated to every kid who ever played around the stream back in the early days. Pretty nice touch, I reckon. Now, check out the Ship Inn here on the corner. This pub's been a local favourite since 1902, but the real story is what's under our boots. See, back then, this was all just soft harbour mud. To stop the pub from sliding into the water, they had to drive huge timber piles 30 metres deep, straight into the muck. But here's the best bit. Local legend says they actually built it right over the top of an old ship's hulk. It's believed to be a schooner called the Governor Bligh, built way back in the early 1800s. And get this, only a few years ago, when they were digging up the road for the new light rail, the archaeologists hit the jackpot. They uncovered the original sandstone foundations of the first ship in from the 1860s. It was actually closer to the water back then, but they had to move the whole pub back just to make room for the very first trams. They found thousands of old glass bottles, clay pipes, and even leather shoes that the locals had just chucked into the mud over a century ago. It's like a giant time capsule under the bitumen. It really shows you how we used to think back then, doesn't it? If you didn't want it, you just kicked it into the swamp and let the TankStream take care of it. No wonder the poor old creek ended up in such a state. We basically turned our first water source into a giant bin. Right, we're going right. Now, I've actually got a video of a walk I did that went up Bulletin Place just there. I'll pop a link for that in the description if you want to check it out later. But today, we're finding a new spot you've got to see. We're heading up Ying Lane. This little stretch only got its name back in 2022. It's a nod to the early Chinese immigrants who set up shop around here and in Parramatta way back when. It's a cracking little shortcut now, and if you're feeling a bit peckish, you're in the right place. You've got Eat Far right here. Their lemongrass beef is top notch if you're after a quick bite. There's also Hustlers just nearby if you want something a bit more fusion, or you can grab a solid brew at Benzie's Cafe. It's funny, we're walking the old stinky TankStream, but all you can smell now is fresh coffee and spicy noodles. Much better for the nostrils, I reckon. Guys, just quickly, I need your help. Can you hit that like button for me? I'm trying to crash the YouTube algorithm here. Just hit it once and voila. Oh, and if you haven't subscribed yet, how about doing that as well? It really helps the channel out. Alright, back to it. We're coming up to some more history now. Right, now look up. This is a proper wow moment. This massive thing hanging 10 metres over our heads is called the Underwood Arc. It's a 200-year-old blackbutt tree, 35 metres long. The artist Michael McIntyre suspended it here in 2017 to remind us what this valley looked like before the concrete took over. Think about that while we're dodging traffic and grabbing coffees. This giant represents the massive old-growth forests that used to line the TankStream. It's tipped on its side like a boat, which is a nod to the history of this exact spot. See, back in 1798, a bloke named James Underwood built Sydney's very first commercial shipyard right here. Hard to believe, but the harbour came all the way up to this lane. Underwood was actually a former convict who made it big. He launched the colony's first proper ship, a schooner called the Contest, right into the mud and mangroves where we're walking now in 1804. But here's the dark side. To build those ships, they cleared every single tree in sight. That's why the TankStream started silting up almost immediately. We traded our fresh water for a shipyard. It was the colony's first big environmental trade-off. And the creek never really recovered. It's a bit eerie, isn't it? A ghost of a forest hanging over the ghost of a shipyard. Right, I'm just heading up here to George Street. We're moving away from the TankStream for a second just to spot a few things. See, Sydney has these great little food spots tucked away, like the family-owned Morrissey's Cafe. This place is a proper local legend. It's been run by the same family for ages. I reckon since the 1980s at least. In a city like this, where everything seems to change in a heartbeat, it's really nice to see a spot that just keeps on keeping on. It's got that old school soul, you know? Actually, if you guys have any suggestions for other hidden gems or great food spots in the city, give them a shout out in the comments. I'd love to hear your favourites. Now, just remember, as we're walking along George Street right now, we're actually on the very first road in Australia. It started life as a rough bullock track, carved out by convicts in 1788. Now, over there, that's the Phillips and Burn building, built in 1909. This place was basically the Amazon of the past. If you wanted something fancy from overseas, maybe some fine English tobacco or the latest hardware from London, you came here to place your order. Mind you, there was a fair bit more paperwork involved than a quick click on your phone, and the wait was a hell of a lot longer. You'd be waiting months for the ship to actually roll into the harbour. But back then, this was as high-tech as shopping got. Right, we're heading down Bridge Street now. It's got a pretty obvious name, doesn't it? That's because this is where the very first bridge in Australia was built to cross the TankStream. In the beginning, it was just a massive fallen log. Can you imagine the officers in their fancy red coats trying to balance on a slippery trunk just to get across the mud? In 1788, they finally had a crack at building a proper wooden bridge. But get this, it only lasted a few months. The first big Sydney thunderstorm came rolling through, the TankStream turned into a raging torrent, and the whole thing just washed out into the harbour. Back to square one, eh? Remember that photo I showed you back at the start? That brickwork with the bloke standing in the tunnel? Well, that's what happened next. They eventually got it right with a sturdy stone arch in 1804. And here's the kicker, that stone bridge, it's actually still there. See, in the 1850s, the city planners decided to flatten the place out. They just dumped tons of dirt and rubble into the valley to level the streets. The old stone bridge was so solid, they basically just looked at it and thought, she'll be right. They didn't even bother knocking it down, they just paved the modern road straight over the top of it. So, as we're walking across this intersection, we're literally walking on a modern street over an 1804 bridge, over a hidden river. It's a proper Aussie shortcut that's lasted over 170 years. Talk about layers of history. Now we are heading into TankStream Way. This narrow little lane is actually one of the most significant spots in the whole city because the stream is flowing directly beneath our feet. It used to be part of Hamilton Street, named after a biscuit factory that was here in the 1800s. But most of that disappeared when they built Australia Square. This little remnant was renamed in 1981 to keep the memory of the water alive. Have a look at the cobblestones and the old walls around here. It has a real hidden gem vibe, and there is one spot you have to check out. It is called Marlowe's Way. This is a proper hole-in-the-wall cafe and bar. It is tiny, but it has that great Melbourne-style alleyway feel with murals and some of the best coffee in the CBD if you are here later in the day. TankStream Bar is tucked away right nearby too. It is inside an old 1860s warehouse building with a massive wooden ceiling and wine racks covering the walls. It is a bit eerie when you think about it. People are up here sipping fine wine and lattes while just a few meters down in the dark. The ghost of the colony's first water supply is still trickling through the convict-built stone tunnels. We are coming up to Spring Street now. This little corner is one of the most important stops on our walk because this is exactly where the creek got its name in 1790, just 2 years after the first fleet arrived. A massive drought hit the colony. The stream started to dry up and the settlers were getting pretty desperate for water. Governor Philp had to think fast. He ordered the convicts to carve 3 huge holding tanks straight into the sandstone bedrock beneath this very intersection. Each tank was about 5 meters deep and could hold nearly 20,000 litres of fresh water. That is why we call it the TankStream today. But there is a bit of dark history here too. To protect the water, the governor actually declared the first Environmental Protection Act in Australia. He created a 15-metre green belt on either side of the stream and banned anyone from cutting trees or letting their stock graze near it. He even stationed soldiers with fixed bayonets along the banks. Their only job was to stop people from washing their filthy clothes or throwing rubbish into the drinking supply. It is a bit of a grim thought, isn't it? Soldiers guarding a creek to keep it from becoming a sewer, but despite the guards and the harsh laws, the pollution just kept getting worse. Eventually, we lost the battle and had to bury the whole thing. That is all for part 1. In the next video, we are going to follow the stream further up the hill. We will find some more fantastic food alleys and a bit more dark history. I will also let you know exactly how you can see the TankStream for yourself. Don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. We have only scratched the surface today and had to keep the stories brief. If you have any extra info about this area, please share it in the comments. I will see you in the next one.